It's preparing now. Okay, we are live.
All right, thank you, Sarah. Hi, I'm Councilman Donnie Kamer. I'm going to call this special public safety committee meeting to order. It's basically going to discuss the technology and equipment with the Akron Police Department. I do have two other members of City Council with us, and what we're going to do is we're going to start with introductions, and I'll start with myself real quick. We'll start with council members, and then we'll move on to the Akron Police Department representatives. Once again, I'm Councilman Donnie Kamer. I serve in Ward 7 on Akron City Council. I'm also the Public Safety Chairman on Akron City Council. And I do have two other colleagues with me. Go ahead, Sharon.
I'm sorry, good afternoon. My name is Sharon Connor. I represent Ward 10 for the City of Akron on City Council. Newly elected and happy to be here.
Good afternoon, Russ Neal, Akron City Council, Ward 4.
I think if the APD representatives want to go ahead and introduce themselves, please.
Oh, okay, yeah. My name is Lieutenant Mark Farrar. I work for Akron Police and I serve in technical services or IT.
And this is Captain Mike Yohe. I am a patrol commander for Platoon 4. That's a 7 p.m. to 3:30 a.m. Patrol shift.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it. So basically, we're going to move forward and we'll have discussion about technology and equipment with the Akron Police Department. I do know we are going to meet 5 times over the course of the next few months for this working group. We're going to focus and discuss anything that has to do with technology. That includes body cameras and then also equipment that the Akron Police Department uses. So with that, I don't know if Akron Police Department, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you two. We'll start with technology. Just kind of give us an introduction on body cameras and anything else that is available to you to speak in regards to this meeting tonight.
Sure. All right. Everybody hear me, Donnie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So I'll just start with just a brief little introduction if I could. Once again, my name is Lieutenant Mark Farrar. I have around 23 and a half years of experience, and I've been with IT or technical services for approximately 2 years serving in this position. My prior IT experience, I did a lot of training for autism awareness. I have a son who was diagnosed with autism. I traveled all throughout the state and taught first responders about autism. Here I developed keynote presentations and I started making my own instructional and personal videos involving autism. This was kind of my first introduction to video editing software when I found that I really like kind of dabbling in some of these IT projects. I also developed and supported 2 of my own personal websites, one for aerial photography and videography using drones, and a second for my educational website where I taught autism awareness for over 5 years. I also developed and supported these 2 websites, which also interested me a lot and kind of was along the IT realm of how I ended up where I'm at. Several years ago, as a background investigator, I also worked with community relations and the Akron Police Department recruitment division. Here I developed 3 of the Akron Police Department promo videos for many of the last handful of hiring classes. For officers, a lot of these videos that I created appeared across various social media sites. Some of my other IT related experiences led me to becoming the officer in charge, of course, as Donnie, as you know, in charge of implementing the department's first ever body worn camera project. This project I worked on for over 3 years. During this assignment, I was responsible for the testing and evaluating of 5 body worn camera vendors. I was also tasked with writing the first ever body worn camera police procedure. where we tapped into using outside community leaders to help us write this procedure. This was the first time in department history where outside community leaders were asked for input in writing police procedures. I was also responsible for marketing the new body-worn camera technology to the public. Here we used marketing for a public awareness campaign of body-worn cameras to the public, mostly by way of palm cards, and marketing on the side of many of the Akron Metro buses that drove all throughout Summit County. These are just a few of my more recent projects that I worked on for the Akron Police Department that embraced an early adoption of technology and had basically led me to the current position that I serve within the Akron Police Department now. Before I kind of mention some of the more broad, larger IT projects that we have completed in the last several years, I'd like to thank City Council for your support throughout the last several years. I know we have a couple newcomers on City Council, and Ms. Connor, it's nice to meet you officially. So without your support throughout these years for some of these larger IT projects, we couldn't have funded these without your approval and support. So as you know, technology is very important moving the city of Akron, the Akron Police Department forward. And I know that Mayor Horrigan has been a huge proponent of technology throughout his time as the mayor of Akron. In the last 2 years, the Akron Police have come leaps and bounds moving forward with technology, in my opinion. When you think about the usage of body-worn cameras and the department implementation of that project alone cost the department over $1 million to implement. This does not include any kind of time used from the personnel that review these videos throughout the department and maintaining and storing these videos and the time that that takes. Having body-worn cameras within this department has affected every single unit and division on the police department, and this has probably been one of the largest IT projects completed in the last 10 years. At the Akron Police Department, we also pride ourselves in getting grant money to pay for a good portion of some of these IT-related projects, if any grant funds are available, of course. For example, on the implementation of the body-worn camera project, APD competed against several hundred other police departments for a competitive grant all throughout the country, where we secured nearly $400,000 to help to offset some of these expenses that were related to this project. The Akron Police Department is now spending over $1 million or more every 5 years in perpetuity that we have never had to spend before on technology. So this is something the group probably should be aware of. Some of the IT projects that we have worked on in the last 2 years, when I first got the position, the cyber attack was kind of on the heels of my move into this new position. And of course, that left the city and the safety forces network damaged and somewhat non-functional for a period of time, if everybody remembers that. This also kind of exposed the vulnerability of our network and the need to make our network more secure from outside attacks. We're in the process of implementing a new city and police department server platform. A server platform, for all those folks that might not understand what that is essentially a family of servers that includes the hardware and operating system of our city. This updated server platform and operating system makes us much more efficient, and it also has redundant and backup platforms should something crash, like if there was a fire or a flood or sometime a major catastrophe to these servers. We also did the voice over IP phone upgrade. All of our lines in the police department have either been upgraded to VoIP, which is voice over IP, and the second half should be completed by spring. All the phones in the police department were upgraded and now function on broadband or internet services. Although the police department's digital evidence is now stored on one server platform, which is evidence.com. Having one server platform for all of our digital evidence simplifies retention, records discovery for court, and records management. We also implemented the new Tyler or CAD system. This is a modern software platform for CAD and mobile to officers on their computers in their cruisers. This is both for police and fire. Our old CAD system as many of you know, was outdated and unsupported, and it was approximately 25 years old. This was also a huge project, and we were only halfway done with. We also just adopted some new police MDBs, where we went from a consumer grade laptop in a safety forces vehicle to a rugged safety forces tablet for greater durability and longer lasting. We also installed access points and provided internet access throughout different parts of the fire departments and the police departments. We created a guest Wi-Fi for training down in the training academy, and now students can log in on their devices and jump on a guest Wi-Fi and do their certifications and accreditations for training. We also, in the last 2 years, purchased and deployed over 250 police workstations. Many of these workstations we had were beyond end of life, were out of warranty, and were unsupported. This includes replacing all the workstations in the dispatch center. In 1 year, we replaced over 250 workstations, but more importantly, we came up with a better strategy moving forward for computer replacement. So not all the computers were needing replaced at the same time. This allows us to be better stewards of the city's money and budget a little bit more effectively when upgrading our IT equipment and safety forces. We also implemented a new software package called LEFTA. LEFTA is a software package for training and FTOs. FTO is a field training officer that now all of the FTOs and the new officers and supervisors on patrol are using. We updated every single Akron Fire Department workstation, and we also upgraded from Windows 7 to Windows 10. As many of you may know, Windows 7 will soon be end of life for Microsoft, and you have to upgrade to Windows 10. Much of the newer software will no longer work on a Windows 7 platform, and I think the city is also working on that on their end as well. We also deployed nearly 50 laptops throughout the police department for the COVID-19 pandemic. This pandemic required us to put more users to work in remote locations to stop the spread of the virus. This forced us to redeploy old machines that essentially were slated to be taken out of service and instead be reused for commanders, detectives, and supervisors out in the field. Some of the big IT projects that we have pending still are we would like to move towards a citizen online reporting system, something like LexisNexis or CopLogic. Adopting this type of software would allow citizens to report low-level crimes, such as minor accidents, to an online portal that probably wouldn't typically be investigated much by patrol. This would allow officers to work more efficiently in the field and respond to higher priority calls for service. This would also integrate with our new records management system. We would like to expand OnBase, which we currently have with the city, for a document management system. This would be used to receive online training procedures and those travel forms that we do for the city. We're really behind in a lot of this stuff because we still use like paper forms and stuff, which seems almost silly in the day and age that we live in now. Most of this stuff should be, supported online. We also would like a long-term enterprise printer solution. We support at the police department, I could just speak for us and safety forces, hundreds and hundreds of individual printers. And every 10 or 15 feet you have a printer. I think we would be better served with more copiers and fewer printers to support on a network. This would also obviously cost significantly less because a printer, for example, a copier would print like 1 million pages before it would be end of life, whereas a printer on your desk might only produce 100 or 200,000 copies before it needed to be replaced. We would also like to implement, many of you have heard of Office 365. This will replace the city's old and outdated email systems. I'm sure that many of you guys have some of the same challenges with some of the old email that we have in safety forces. So upgrading from our old email to Office 365 would be a big win moving forward as well. We would also like to implement e-ticketing and install printers in the police vehicles. We've been testing this currently right now, and we have an e-ticketing software package with the new Tyler RMS system. We also have printers and papers we've been testing. So essentially we would get rid of all paper forms. And if somebody got a ticket, a summons, if a tow report needed to be done, we would just complete it on a computer in the cruiser and print out a copy right there and just give it to the person or the tow truck driver or the wagon driver. So it would get rid of a lot of those paper forms that we would need to constantly order. We're also interested in moving forward with license plate reader technology. This would help with police investigations in many ways. License plate reader technology software could be installed on some of the pre-existing cameras that the city already owns and maintains on our fiber system all throughout the city. We also want to purchase Chromebooks or laptops for the new recruits moving forward for training and hiring. These Chromebooks or laptops promote online learning and would nearly eliminate the need to print out copies of any educational information required by OPATA. OPATA is the state that requires us to be certified in the basic OPATA hours that we teach down in the police academy. We also are going to finish the implementation of the new RMS. RMS is just a record management system. We already implemented the CAD, which is computer aided dispatch. Now we just have to implement the record management system through Tyler. This is going to happen throughout 2021. Tyler, or the CAD and the RMS, would be a global system for the Akron Police. This RMS would dovetail in the recently deployed CAD system for dispatching both police and fire. It would also increase our awareness for responding units accordingly, and we would have everything on one global system. So kind of in a wrap up, I'd like to say, thank you for your time, and we look forward to working together on future technology and initiatives. And again, the Akron Police Department truly appreciates the support from City Council throughout these years in moving a lot of these IT initiatives forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant. I appreciate that. Before I ask my colleagues if they have any questions, I do have one question. You gave us a lot of information, so I appreciate that. But what's the personnel in the IT department for the Akron Police Department? Like, how many individuals and workers do you have?
Sorry, I was muted. Let's see. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 7.
Okay.
7 total. Keep in mind, when I say IT for police, it's safety forces. So we also support the entire Akron Fire Department as well. So there's two of those 7 are Akron firemen.
Okay.
We have approximately collectively around just shy of 1,000 users between police and fire, and that includes all civilians as well.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Committee members, do we have any questions for the lieutenant before we move on to equipment? I see Councilman Neal does.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Lieutenant, for the update. I'm curious, because we've had this discussion for a while. I know data storage is a big issue with the body cameras, and my concern is with the infusion of 5G technology and us using servers. Have we ever looking at the service that Amazon Web, AWS, Google, and Microsoft, some of them offer with the cloud-based backup system?
Yeah, so we have looked at those and gotten quotes from a variety of vendors. And as some of you may know, we moved our platform, or we are currently moving our server platform to Involta, which is over there down by, like the Summit County Jail over there. And so basically Involta is like a big, huge server farm where all these servers exist. And that's where all of our data goes. Now, just so you know, we put all of our evidence, however, on Axon or evidence.com. So all of our evidence, police evidence, is on evidence.com. Our city server platform is at Involta.
I was just curious because I know our city was really hindered when our system was hacked. And with all the new technology that was coming out, I just was wondering how much longer our servers will be able to keep up with some of the new stuff that's coming up. But if you guys have done the cost and I would like to see those numbers. The other question, since we're talking about technology, there's been some discussion and differences of opinions about the technology called spot shooter. The shots fired.
Yeah, shot spotter. Yeah.
Yeah, technology.
Yep.
Where is the police department's position on that? I've talked to some council people, most recently a councilwoman from Youngstown, and even though you put it in your hot areas, she sees some success with it. With all that we've had, I'd like to get your opinion on shots fired.
Right. So that's an excellent question, Mr. Neal. Shot spotter technology has really been kind of hit or miss. It's relatively new technology, so they're still currently evaluating it for some of the agencies that have recently implemented a system like shot spotter technology, because it has some competitors. Shot spotter is just kind of a generic term for it. But the challenge with some of the meetings that I've sat on, as many of you know, Mayor Horgan has really liked to move forward with a lot of these smart city initiatives. And some of those smart city initiatives included considering adding shot spotter technology to a lot of those spots where we have that fiber and those cameras and those city cameras that we support anyway. The challenge with it is it's only accurate within a certain amount of area, and you need to kind of almost saturate the area with these devices that are very expensive, because in order to ping its location with any kind of certainty, you have to have, like, I think, a minimum of 3 of these devices installed in a relatively confined area so it can detect a good location that it gives back to first responders. So the question is, where would you put this technology that is very expensive to begin with? And if you put it in one area, what about the other areas throughout the city that we can't afford to put it in? So it's very expensive. A lot of the reviews have still not come in to say how accurate it is. And so I guess that's been my experience with it, Mr. Neal, so far. Hopefully that helps. Some of the costs are a little bit, in my opinion, cost prohibitive for implementing some of these things, but that's all part of the smart city initiatives. And there's, all kinds of grant funding and stuff that we would go after before we implemented something like that.
If I may, one more, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, please do. Go ahead, Russ.
Okay, thanks, Lieutenant. When you mentioned smart cities, with the new street lights they have coming out that record and whatnot, I've had residents ask me if we have ever thought of like a mobile camera system that we could put up in areas where there's a lot of activity as well, to try to catch some things. Has there been any discussion about possibly mobile cameras that we could set up in hot spots and the effectiveness of those to try to capture some things in play?
Yeah, so that's actually a great question, and we've been working on that for the last couple of years as well as I've been in my position. A lot of that stuff is done through pole cams, which we actually just recently bought several pole cams. We actually buy the equipment, and our city folks actually have developed and made these cameras. So those cameras are actually used in investigations currently as we speak, depending upon where they're needed. And basically, just so you know, they're put in a conspicuous location, like on the top of a telephone pole or on the top of a building that kind of supposed to blend in with their location. And then the detectives can actually log into Milestone, which is part of our camera system that the city supports, and they can actually see live feeds from the locations that they happen to be putting under surveillance. And these are usually involved with kind of like long-term, bigger drug investigations. So I'm not in that unit, but I can definitely speak on it because we actually support the camera systems.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I said one more. I do have one more, then I'll stop.
No, go
Um,
ahead. Good question.
You know, drones. What is the future of drones in police force? Again, being able to survey areas and I know there isn't much legislation on it that's out there as far as regulating it, but do you see in some of the communications that you receive and future practices of uses of technology, drones having a play? It seems like it'd be a kind of inexpensive.
Yeah, Mr. Neal, I'll tell you what, you hit my favorite topic to talk about, so I don't want to drone on and on too much about it, but probably about 6 or so years ago when drones first came out, I bought a drone and started flying it, and then I realized how this could be used as a force multiplier for law enforcement. So ever since I was kind of interested in this technology, I've been kind of a big, huge promoter of drone technology and using it for first responders, not only police, but for fire as well. I mean, could you imagine if there was a drone on that traffic tanker accident on Route 8 and you could just fly above there and keep everyone a safe distance away and read the placard on the tanker and know exactly what kind of chemicals or hazards might be in the truck. You know, imagine if it was used in a SWAT call where police had a live eyeball in the sky, firsthand live view of what's going on. I mean, drone technology, when it first came out, the public was kind of a bit leery of it because they didn't want these things to be used as like a way to violate people's rights and to spy on you. But since then, since drones have come out and we've seen how they can be used in business applications, commercial applications, and law enforcement applications, there's a much wider level of support to have drones for police and fire. So the police department in Akron are moving forward with trying to secure a UAV. A UAV is an unmanned aerial vehicle. That's the technical term for drone. But we would like to move forward with a UAV platform to be used in law enforcement. The tricky part about it is you have to get certified, you have to get training, you have to test it. And of course, a drone can only be used in applications where the weather is not prohibitive for its use. I mean, if there was a snowstorm, a windstorm, a rainstorm, you basically have a four bladed lawnmower in the air that you really need to take responsibility for. I mean, it really could be unsafe. Imagine if that, you know, dropped down and hit somebody or crashed against somebody's window or something like that. So there's a lot of legalities from the FAA that even kind of prohibits police from, you know, using them too loosely. And of course, we would never really want to use them for surveillance unless we had like some type of search warrant or something like that. But drone technology is huge, and moving forward, it can be huge for the Akron Police Department and Akron Fire Department. And I think you got a lot more community support for drones than you ever had, even five or so years ago when they came out. So we're really intrigued at the police department with drones, and we definitely want to move forward with a UAV program in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Lieutenant.
Yeah, good questions, Councilman. I do want to real quick continue the conversation about the drone technology. Russ brought up a good question, and Lieutenant, you briefly talked about APD moving forward with it. Like, where are we in that conversation? Are we more towards the beginning, towards the middle, or towards the end to make that happen?
That's a great question, Donnie. So our drone program would be run under the crime scene unit. The crime scene unit outside IT, it's a separate division in the police department. And Lieutenant Oldacre, who happens to be in charge of the crime scene unit, is trying to implement a UAV program for the police department. So I would really have to get back with you, Mr. Kamer, to have a better answer on that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I would like to maybe eventually talk about that in one of our future meetings, because I want to know, you know, are we trying to apply for a grant? Are we submitting a line item for a budget line item for the police department with that? Because it seems like, you know, Councilman Neal is probably in favor of something like that. I think what you explained, I can visualize it, and I really think that is good technology. When you use the example of the SWAT team and then the Round 8 fire. So
Right. I mean, the drone technology it's absolutely, when I first started, just for example, the first drone I bought, you had to be within 500 feet of the device because it didn't have connectivity to your tablet that you were flying. Basically, you had to have line of sight with it. Now these drones can fly like 3-4 miles away. So the police officers and firefighters no longer have to be right up on the scene to have a bird's eye view of what's happening, which is absolutely phenomenal technology. And they have a live feed to a command post on a major incident with a drone in the air. I mean, the technology is amazing. And Mr. Kamer, for the next meeting, or I don't know if whenever we set the next meeting, I can absolutely have some more of those answers for you.
okay, no, thanks, Lieutenant. I appreciate that. I will ask. I do have a couple questions about another topic with technology, but Councilwoman Connor, do you have anything? You have any comments or questions?
I have a suggestion with the drone program. We're so close. Kent State Airport has one of the best aviation programs around, and maybe we could look at a partnership if they do drone certification. It might be something that we could write a grant for, but develop a partnership if we were able to. And that might be something to look into. And I want to say, Lieutenant, it's so refreshing to hear somebody talk so excitedly about technology. So much when you say technology, you hear the gloom and doom side of it. So it really is refreshing. And I applaud all your work. It's great to see us moving forward with technology at our back.
Thank you, Ms. Connor. I think that's an excellent suggestion.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Before we move on to equipment, I do have a question for you, Lieutenant. I just want to back up a little bit. The body cameras. I kind of want to I don't want to talk too much about it, but obviously we're equipped. We have every officer that's equipped with body cameras. But my question is, do we need more, or what happens if somehow 5 body cameras in 1 week gets damaged or they're not usable? Do we have backups and stuff like that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So we're about almost 3 years into our 5-year contract with Akron with the body-worn cameras. We originally ordered and was approved through the grant to purchase 245 of these cameras. That almost equipped all of patrol. But we recently added we've been hiring people, and we've also expanded them. Like, for example, now I was just recently told that all the SROs, the school resource officers, are getting a body camera. So, there's anywhere from 15 to 16 more cameras. So as the demand, Mr. Kamer, for these body worn cameras grows, we continue to purchase more of these on our contract. So originally we were at 245. I can get you the number. I don't have the number in front of me, but that's increased. And we also have licenses that we added for detectives. And now detectives are putting their interviews and their photos that they're taking from the crime scene. They're putting all that stuff in evidence.com. And so I logged on just to give you one example. I want to bore you with a bunch of statistics, but imagine 3 years ago, we had no body worn cameras. Okay. As of September 19th of 2020, we had 4,500 hours of digital video evidence from these body worn cameras. Think about that. That's 9 terabytes of data. There's 500 hours of video in 1 terabyte of data. It would take a single person 188 days to watch all of our body worn camera videos. And this was digital evidence that we had nothing of 3 years ago. Imagine how much digital evidence we're going to have in 5 more years, 7 more years, and 10 more years. I mean, this is going to be a tsunami of digital evidence, and that requires a huge lift on personnel to, sort them, tag them, review them, records retention for public records requests to release to council, to release to law, to release to the media. I mean, this has absolutely left no person on the Akron Police Department untouched with this technology. It's just amazing.
Yeah. Good. No, that's impressive. Well, moving forward with the body cameras, Lieutenant, I just want to say that, I know 2 years ago, I rode around with a few officers, and that's when I found out that we had officers. There were several of them without tasers, and I worked with one of my colleagues, and we were able to get the funding for tasers. So just moving forward, if you have, any conversations you want to have, or if there's anything, I want to make sure our officers, as many as we can, or almost everybody on patrol, is equipped with body cameras, because it protects our citizens and also our officers. So in the future, it would be greatly appreciated if you can keep me posted on that, and also keep the Public Safety Committee, not just this committee, but also the Public Safety Committee on Akron City Council, aware of any issues we might have of lack of body cameras or anything like that.
Perfect. Yeah, and just so you know, Mr. Kamer, we actually just recently, within the last several years, equipped every single patrol officer with a taser. Those things are also very expensive as well.
Mm-hmm.
And not every single officer had one, but now every single officer that responds to patrol calls also has a taser. And the cool thing about having Axon makes the body worn camera, and they also make the taser. What they have now is the Axon taser works together in conjunction with the body worn camera. So in the event that there's a rapidly evolving incident with the officer, and the officer doesn't have the wherewithal or the time to press the record button on the body worn camera, he pulls out his taser, he puts his taser in the on position. The taser turns on the body worn camera too. So it's amazing technology that all works in an ecosystem together to make the officer and the citizens more safe. So thank you so much. That stuff's very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Without council support, we wouldn't have this stuff. So, we are very appreciative on the police department for your support with some of these purchases.
No, I appreciate that, Lieutenant. It was just a ride along. We actually stopped for lunch, and I was able to conversate with the 2 police officers, and that's how I noticed they didn't have tasers, and that's where that conversation started. But no, appreciate that. And then real quick, before I move on, I don't want to discuss it tonight. I just want to ask you, I know the cameras in the cruisers are becoming more obsolete. Is that something that's under your umbrella too?
It's a great question, Mr. Kamer. I actually tested a Axon in-car system as well.
Okay.
And Axon, which of course makes the taser, and they also make the body worn cameras, like about a year and a half ago when I tested it, they just came out with a in-car dash police video camera system. And of course, it all works under the same ecosystem. And again, it's an added expense. And at the police department, we didn't have, in our opinion, we didn't have the budget for it or the need for it. Because when you think about video and how much video actually occurs in the front of the cruiser, you're only looking around 20% of the officers' interactions actually happen right in front of the cruiser. And around, give or take, 80% of the action happens in front of the body-worn camera. So the question is, do we want to go ahead and move forward with equipping 145 police cars, that would potentially cost several million more dollars, with a video camera that only covers 20% of the officer's actions? Or would you rather put that money and make sure we had the tasers, or we had the body-worn cameras, or the licensing for it, or the data to store it? So these are questions that command staff discuss all the time. So
right.
In a perfect world, if we had a money tree planted in front of 217 South, we would love to have a video system, of course. But we just didn't think, with only capturing 20% of the action from the officer, that would be worth it at that time. We haven't revisited it in a while.
Okay, well, no, I understand that with the 80% of things happening in front of a body camera, maybe 20% in front of a cruiser, but there's always that what if.
Yep.
And
you're right.
I do want to, in the future, I'll talk to my 2 colleagues on the committee here through maybe email or something in the next week or 2, but maybe we should have that discussion here in the future, just because, is that another, I understand the cost, and we only have so much money to go around, but also I think maybe we should have that conversation, but that's something we'll talk about in the future.
Perfect.
All right, with that, we'll go ahead. I know Captain Yohe, he's been patient, and we'll get him on here and he can talk about some of the equipment with the Akron Police Department. Captain?
Hey, thanks, Donnie. Yeah, I can certainly answer many of the questions. I'm excited to be here as well because we certainly have lots of things going on in the Akron Police Department that I think are important for everyone on council to know and understand. Just again, to give you a little overview of myself, I know Donnie, you and I have worked together for a while, but for the others, I was born and raised in Akron here, went to Akron Public Schools and got my graduate degree from Kent State and of course undergrad at Akron U. And I've been in all three subdivisions of the Akron Police Department, including working in the street narcotics uniform detail and acted as a training commander. And now, again, I'm on platoon 4 as the patrol commander. I've had a lot of collateral duties that I think will kind of help as we delve into this issue of equipment, because each one of those collateral duties were intimately connected with equipment and technology. Specifically, it was involved for, really since its inception, the CIT, or Crisis Intervention Team program, helped develop that and actually made that what I proudly say is internationally known. We continue to collaborate with many partners in our community to improve law enforcement and criminal justice interactions with those in the community that have mental illness. I've also really was at the ground start level for tasers, and that technology certainly changed police work as I worked with the training and coordinating of that program for the better part of 15, 17 years. And getting it proudly to the point, like you had mentioned, that it took us a long time to get all the police officers on the street access to a taser. So those two programs, like I said, started really from the beginning. And another one, I've been on the SWAT team for 20 years and I'm currently the SWAT commander. Technology and equipment is very important to that team, as it is for all police officers, but especially for the officers who get called to for some of the more dramatic and difficult situations to deal with. So as we touch into this, I guess I want to say from the beginning that there is going to be a lot of crossover between the different groups, as we've already kind of touched upon now, that technology reaches many facets. There's training involved in those things. There's policies and procedures, and maybe an expectation for the sharing of information and transparency that bleed over into all of these different subgroups. So even if it's not on the topic of technology, if something comes up in the other groups that I can be of assistance, please don't hesitate to give me a call or let me know that I can help in those areas as well. I really we have so many things going, and I know we've spent a lot of time already, so I don't want to delve too deeply into these things, but we have, like I said, lots of programs that we'll hopefully be able to touch into, especially with the need really for the technology and equipment for us to continue doing what we're doing. It is a very important part of the safety for our community and for our officers. So as we try to define this, and Councilman Kamer, I spoke with you previously about this, I really want to know what kind of issues, as we kick this off and define this, our goals here, what you're looking for, what information I can provide within all those areas that I am in command of and have some historic knowledge that I could perhaps answer. So do you have any specific areas that you'd like me to start off with tonight? Or questions about equipment? I mean, that's kind of a pretty broad topic, really. So is there any place you guys would like to focus on?
That's a good question. What I would start off with is probably maybe some of the equipment that we currently are using, what we could use that we don't have. I mean, I don't know everything that's under your jurisdiction, but that's where I would start, really. Okay.
Well, I guess let's segue into the tasers. The taser was a great thing. It certainly was a game changer for the police department and dramatically changed how we dealt with many critical incidents. it absolutely positively has been a lifesaver for many individuals in the community as well as police officers. It's like you said, it took a long time to us to investigate, to test, to evaluate, to put these in the field, and then of course to get the money because they are very expensive to get them deployed. But they certainly have proven themselves, over time. There's other pieces of equipment that we continue to, try to get. I know this is the first year in the history of the city that the Akron Police Department SWAT team, all of my police officers now have current vests, and by that I mean that they're not expired or outdated. So that's the first time ever that's occurred was this year, and that was through the support of City Council, and for us to be seeking out, like many of these things, outside funding sources and grants and other things to make those things happen. The same with our mobile field force equipment. It's kind of timely right now. We've seen issues in the city where political gatherings and protests have risen to a point that we needed to kind of revisit this as things to keep again the community safe and the officers safe when dealing with these things that have turned, violent at times. So equipment and munitions that are appropriate for that were needed, and we've ordered some new things. That's a new program and new training that we're developing that's connected to equipment. We continue to explore, other less lethal tools and things that can help officers safely deal with critical incidents. Mostly things that can be protective type equipment, rescue vehicles, things that would afford officers, an opportunity to survive being shot at, to do their job, from everything from SWAT incidents to shooting incidents, which we're seeing more and more on the rise of today too. So those are a couple of the more dramatic things connected to equipment. Is there any other questions on anything connected to that, or anything else I could explain to you?
Well, the only thing I'll touch on, and I know I previously talked about this, and it goes back to funding, and we only have so much funding to go around, but like the tasers, for instance, every officer needs to have one of those. And I know a couple of years ago when I found out that several of those officers didn't have tasers, I was just shocked. And I know, like I said, we have to know that stuff like that, because obviously, the police officers need to be equipped with the tools of their trade, but also we have to remember or think about those scenarios out there that officers and the citizens face, and to protect citizens. And obviously, the tasers, hopefully the first thing that you would reach for instead of a gun. So I'll start with tasers. I mean, are we looking good with the Akron Police Department, with the patrol officers and everybody being equipped with the tasers? I mean, do we have good warranty with those tasers? I mean, are we replacing them? I don't want an officer to go without a taser for like 3-4 weeks or a month,
Yeah, well, like Lieutenant Farrar says, I think we're in good shape, but we continue to, as we put on new officers and equipment becomes better. Taser currently has other versions, updated versions of the taser, but with the technology, the body-worn cameras and tasers being handled through obviously Axon, the same vendor, it has improved our ability to kind of negotiate and keep updated on both those technology platforms that, as you can imagine, continue to get improvements. And yes, it would be nice if we could stay up to the current, most up-to-date technology connected to those both of those devices. So yes, patrol officers now have them, but it's something that we need to continue to explore and support, because they've proven themselves on the safety end for our community as a very, very valuable resource that are worth that ongoing support, as we move forward.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. And like my colleague, Russ Neal, he's been on council a little longer than me, and we sit next to each other on council. But, I've heard, you know, like the Akron Fire Department, there were several years where they only had one turnout gear. We were finally able to get them an extra set for every firefighter. I'm hoping it's every firefighter. But I just want to make sure moving forward that we can try to stay on top of what equipment we need. So, I mean, with that, I'll ask my colleagues if they have any questions, if they have any other things they want to talk about in regards to equipment with the Akron Police Department. So, Russ, Sharon, anything?
No, sir, I'm good right now. Thank you.
All right.
I'm good. I'll try to make a list of questions though, now that I have a better feel for what we're doing.
Okay, good,
Well-
good. So,
Councilman Kamer, if I can inject something, I guess we kind of lend ourselves to these more dramatic pieces of equipment, like tasers and body worn cameras. And those are dramatic in the impacts that they have. But, we have to just remember, I guess, some fundamental operating needs and just simple things like having safe, sound vehicles and, things that we kind of maybe take for granted really, but, are important. So, I just want to kind of mention that a little bit too, so that those normal things that get kind of forgotten about are included in these discussions because they are very important to the safety of the officers and, of course, the community, as you can imagine, to have reliable transportation that includes, all the protective equipment and the lights, the sirens, the protective cages in the back, the pieces of equipment, like I said, that can be kind of forgotten about because they might not be as glamorous or as
Right.
showy as a drone or a body worn camera. But those things continue to evolve and need supported as well. So I just want to, kind of put that out there as well as we move forward in talking about equipment for the department.
okay, no, I appreciate you bringing that up because to be honest with you, when I came into this meeting today, technology, I did not know there's that much of a broad conversation, to be honest with you. So Lieutenant really filled me in on a lot of things that I did not know. So it was nice. So I lost my train of thought, but
Well,
all right.
as we get into this, if you can share with you, even in preparation for meetings, things that you would like us to touch upon or that we could talk about, certainly want to do everything. I know Lieutenant Farrar and I both want to do everything we can to make the most of this opportunity to share with you what we do, how we do it, the needs that we do have, because we absolutely positively need continuing understanding and support. Things are changing in society, obviously, as of late. It's been dramatically shown. But we, in order to stay on top of these things and be really a preventative force as much as we can, these things, as Lieutenant Farrar said, these things are many times force multipliers and allow us to try to get ahead of this stuff rather than be reactive to it. So that I'm excited. Anything we can do to, let us know ahead of time. We'll try to gather all the facts that we can and really make these conversations as substantial as we possibly can.
No, that's good, Captain. And I know Councilman Neal wants to speak, but our next meeting will be on October 5th. That's a Wednesday at 5 p.m. So I think us council members with our constituents and people that are watching today, those are questions that obviously they can email us or call us about, and we can have that discussion on those topics. Like before I end the meeting today, I do know Sarah does have a letter to be read in from a resident. And that's something that you can touch on today, or we can email you that letter after she reads it in at the end of the meeting. And then you can address it on October 5th. So those are questions, and I'm sure that will come up and create more dialogue and discussion. So,
Okay.
Councilman Neal.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Not for this meeting, but for the next one of my concerns is that as our different departments look at technology, that there's synergy between the technologies that we use. I had the pleasure of visiting when we were in LA, I saw a smart city display. And, if we have any Browns fans on this Zoom call, the term analytics is popping up everywhere, even in sports. And they showed how they use analytical data to tell where the next potential hotspots would be, and stuff we wouldn't think about. If there was starting to be an increase in blight in a certain area, it was amazing everything that they use. And so at some point in our discussion, if we could get a more holistic understanding of, is there synergy between the different technologies that we're using? For example, we all put in where we have abandoned cars or blighted properties. Does any of that information, if you use the analytics, spill over to, the police department, where they may know, hey, this is a potential area that's coming up, and where we need to work with our service department to get in there and make sure we hit the high grass. Something else that comes up, I know there's been data that's come out, if an area where there's trees have a way of deterring crime. I don't want to go on, but just looking at the synergy between the technologies that we use in all of our departments, so that the analytical data that comes out can help all of us. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Neal, I know that Lieutenant Farrar, the next meeting, can have a wealth of information. We certainly have a crime mapping and planning components to the IT that will be able to provide a lot of the information that you want. We probably don't have time in this meeting to go over it, but it could be a whole meeting just on what the Akron policeman does in that area. Now, I don't know, Lieutenant Farrar wants to go into a lot of depth right now, but we certainly do that stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
those are awesome questions, and we're pretty proud of some of the work that we do with our crime analytics and our intelligence unit. And we could share all kinds of stats and show you some of these cool crime stats and hotspots and mapping and geo-verifying these locations that we do for, trouble areas or high crime areas. So, I mean, like Captain Yowie said, that could be a meeting in and of itself.
All right, sounds good. Yeah. Well, before we end, I would like our Deputy Clerk of City Council to read in a letter that we did receive. Captain Yowie, if you want, we can email you that letter, and then we can discuss it 2 weeks from now, instead of you just kind of taking in the whole letter tonight and speaking about it. But and then obviously,
Yeah.
Sarah, you're taking minutes for this meeting, right? Okay, we'll all get a copy of that. Okay, so I'll turn it over to Sarah, and then after she's done, Captain, you can answer the letter, or you can take it with you. We'll email it to you, and then we can talk about it in 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, that'd be great. If you can email me a copy, that would be fantastic.
Okay.
Sure, will do. This came in from Deborah Lamb. She says, hello, I was referred by Councilman Malik to write to you regarding the technology working group responsible for discussing and identifying the military style equipment thought to be used by the Akron Police Department. I am inquiring as to what specific military style equipment might the committee be referring to. It would be a good idea to have a detailed and specific itemized list of what you deem military style. I am simply a citizen with a vested interest in the safety of our police officers and, of course, the citizens of Akron. In looking at the tumult that is taking place in other police departments around the country, it is clear that officials jumped to conclusions, took actions, and made declarations that affected the safety of their constituents and eroded the morale of the police department to seemingly irreparable levels. The increased crime rate and the ad hoc depolicing that is taking place in other cities is due in part to lack of support from city officials and a complete and utter misreading of the needs of the public. I am concerned that we may be creating a problem where there is none. I'm happy to discuss this further and would like to be involved in these discussions.
All right. Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that. What Sarah will do is, Captain, she'll email you that. I do know my colleagues here on the committee did get a copy of that, and I did as well. And then hopefully here on October 5th, we can discuss that letter, if that's okay with you, Captain.
Yeah, absolutely. Not a problem.
Just
Okay.
wanted to mention it's actually October 7th. That's Wednesday,
Oh,
2 weeks from today.
all right. Okay, October 7th. Thanks for that sheet I printed out. It said October 5th. So, all right. No, thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that. So October 7th, and that's a Wednesday. And then that's at 5 p.m. So with that, I'm going to ask my colleagues if I can get a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Second.
All right. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate it.